Since the late 1800s, Texas A&M has had a rich history of cavalry and horse-drawn artillery training. It was common for militaries to provide cavalry training, and Texas Agricultural and Mechanical College followed suit. In 1940, following the example set by the United States Army, Texas AMC disbanded its own cavalry unit. 32 years would pass before a cadet would mount up and ride at another Corps event.
I'm Mike Collins, class of '74. I was the first commanding officer at Parsons Mounted Cavalry. Inspiration really came from Darrell Williams, who noticed the class ahead of us had some riders ride in at a football game, and he was the motivating force to get the ball rolling. And with him, Doug Latimer, a few other guys, we went with the idea to the Trigon, and the Trigon, that was Colonel Tom Parsons. Tom Parsons was a can-do guy. When you came to Parsons with a problem and you had a solution to the problem, he'd back you 150%. You didn't bring Parsons a problem without an answer. But if you had an answer, you had a logical way to handle it, he was in your court. I don't believe I ever got from Tom Parsons anything close to, that won't work. We tried, but we failed. I didn't hear negativity. To be able to get us to march in, we had to find a way that everybody was happy, that we wouldn't tear up the turf. To do that, we had to find galoshes. The horses have different size feet. Some of them have great big feet, some of them have smaller feet. One common theme, they don't like galoshes. And we lost a few as we went in, had to collect those as they came back. I was so relieved when we got through that nobody got thrown, everybody made it through, the horses looked good, and we were greatly received by the fans. The most important thing really was we survived. There was a lot of naysayers. You can't do this, you can't do that. Ignoring them and getting it done. Living on now 50 years later saying it still exists makes you feel that they've survived. There's been 50 units since we came through. Everyone has its own personality. Everyone did things probably right and probably did things that weren't right. Hopefully they all learned from them.
Initially, the cavalry was housed on 5 acres at what is now the Rellis campus. In 1975, the unit moved to a 26-acre location west of main campus on FM 2818. In 1981, the area's official name became Fiddler's Green after the regimental poem of the same name. As with the university and Corps populations, change in the demographics of Parsons Mounted Cavalry came in the 1981-1982 school year when Loge Beebe Barnes, class of '82, became the first female member of the unit.
My name is Loge Barnes, class of '82. I was the first woman in Parsons Mounted Cavalry. I was formerly known as BB Buck at that time. I decided to join Parsons Mounted Cavalry because as a fish, when I arrived at A&M, I really wanted to be in the Texas Aggie band. I played the trumpet and rode horses were two of my biggest passions. And I was told that I could not be in the band because I was a woman. And so when I became a junior, I made it a goal to join the Cav. It meant a lot to me to be able to participate in the Cav. I guess also because there had never been a woman, it kind of raised the bar a little bit more. When I joined the Cav, being the first woman, I wasn't particularly welcome. I mean, it was rough. I'm not going to say it wasn't. You have to make sure that you are meeting the same standards that the male cadets are meeting. You can't ask for, exceptions to be made because you're a woman. And I think that in most cases, that does happen. And I think especially if you're on the tip of the spear, so to speak, you oftentimes have to be even a little bit better. When you're overcoming those barriers and you're not realizing that at the time, you're actually pulling out the bricks for the future behind you to step on to reach, higher than you ever considered reaching. Well, I think when I did go visit, I was surprised by how much progress had been made because it felt like it took a long time for progress to start, but once it started, it seemed that it progressed pretty quickly. There were a lot of women in the CAV, that it's fantastic the way that horsemanship is really being focused on. We didn't. We just went out and rode and did our best. And if you didn't know much about horses, I'm not sure how much you actually officially learned, during your tenure, your 2 years there. So I think, as young people going in there, learning about horsemanship, hopefully they learn about being ethical and doing the right thing, even if it's not the popular thing to do, because I think that's the hard part about being there. I think it's a much more supportive organization now. I think that learning to be, work in teams and to have that work ethic, being ethical, all of the things that you learn from being in a special unit like that, and then you add the horses in, that just adds another layer. You have that responsibility for something else other than yourself that you can focus on. And so I think it's a great learning opportunity. It's a great networking opportunity, and I think they should, go for it.
Just like the school's first cavalry units, Parsons Mounted Cavalry wasn't a complete artillery unit until 1974, when cadets uncovered a 3-inch M1902 field gun during a cut for Aggie bonfire. This discovery set in motion the story of a future cavalry staple. The process of restoring the cannon began in 1977, when John Gunter III, class of '79, petitioned Colonel Tom Parsons to allow him to undertake the project. Parsons agreed. The process would take a better part of 2 years to reach completion, and would end with the cannon being christened as the Spirit of '02. In 1982, PMC Commanding Officer Dale Gibson, class of '83, added a new chapter to the unit's history when he was granted permission to fire the cannon on the quad for the first time.
My name is Dale Gibson. I was the commanding officer of Parsons Mounted Cavalry in the 82-83 school year. I am class of '83. I joined Parsons Mounted Cavalry because couple of reasons. My first love in life had always been horses, and that was a way for me to be involved with horses while I was there at A&M. Prior to being in Parsons Mounted Cavalry, I had no clue there was a cannon out there. In fact, my sophomore and early part of my junior year, the cannon didn't have a case on, didn't have any wheels. There's a plaque on the quad where we fired it officially for the first time, but I like to tell people in the story that it got fired unofficially quite a lot before that. The actual official firing of the cannon, that was all Captain Waller and the brass at the Trigon. We finally, in the spring of '82, finished the restoration process of the cannon and got the wheels put on it where we could move it around, and it actually looked like a real cannon. They said, we've got this cannon, let's do something with it. The first time we officially fired it was for step off for marching in September of fall of 1982. I had no clue at the time as to how to give the command to fire, and I asked Captain Waller, I said, we were standing on the quad getting ready to do it, and I said, how do I do this? And he said, oh hell, Gibson, I don't know, just stand 2 steps in front and 2 steps to the right, throw your saber back and yell fire. And that's what I did. My left ear's always had a rattle in it since. When I was in the Corps recruiting program, I'd always tell people that, if it wasn't for the Corps, Texas A&M would be just like any other university. And the cannon gives a symbol that sets Texas A&M apart from any other university, I think.
The Spirit of '02 cemented its place as an Aggie game day tradition when it was fired at Kyle Field for the first time in 1984.
My name is Richard Polanski. I'm the class of '84, Company B1, and my position with the Parsons Mounted Cavalry was section chief. We got the horse team to pull the section, and the horse team could pull it, with our marchings and everything else. And we actually got support from Jackie Sherrill to shoot the cannon with every score or every so often. And when we came through with the horse team, I stopped, we halted, disconnected the O2. We wheeled it, my team, wheeled it into position where it was kind of in front of the scoreboard. We loaded the gun at the time, and for the first shot that we were going to, and I said, okay, we may never shoot this thing again. We may get stopped. I was standing off to the back left side, and at that time we didn't have sabers. I gave the command to fire, and then I yelled at the top of my voice, and it was a thunderous roar. You could hear it all the way through campus is what I heard. It echoed through Kyle Field. Smoke came bellowed out of the end of the barrel, and it covered the whole half of Kyle Field because all the black smoke and everything. The rest is history. We started firing at every game, and the public loved it. The Aggies around enjoyed it, especially any of the Corps of Cadets, only old Ags like that enjoyed this, and old military. They love to see that, to bring back that history, to bring back that reenactment, to bring back the drills and everything they did before then, and the veterans that left and did not return. It's just kind of like they're the voices from beyond singing out. To see the cannon still being fired at game day, it brings back a bit of affirmation to see that the work that we had all done still continues. That it just didn't die off. It's still moving forward, and it's still growing. That's what brings me to a little bit of happiness and a big smile on my face.
As time has progressed, so has the renown of the cavalry. In 1989, Parsons Mounted Cavalry attended the inauguration of George H.W. Bush, the 41st President of the United States. 36 members and 22 horses took part in the event. Just as Parsons Mounted Cavalry grew in reputation, so did their facilities and numbers. The acreage of Fiddler's Green expanded from 26 acres into 50 acres. An increase in space has allowed for more horses and riders. By 1993, Parsons Mounted Cavalry had grown to more than 60 cab jocks. In 2019, a trip to the Rose Bowl Parade in Pasadena, California, was the crowning event of the year. The trip, which was planned entirely by cadets, covered over 1,500 miles. More than 50 cadets and support staff, along with 40 horses and mules, participated in the Rose Bowl Parade. This was the first time the Corps had been represented at this prestigious event. The increase of cab jocks provided more opportunities for female riders. Following in the footsteps of Loje Barnes, Rose Marshall blazed a new path when she became the first female commanding officer of Parsons Mounted Cavalry in 2018.
Howdy, my name is Rose Marshall, class of 2019, and I was the first female commanding officer of Parsons Mounted Cavalry. I chose to join PMC because I had several upperclassmen in my outfit, Connor Unruh and Sky Finley, two individuals that I really looked up to, and they were in PMC. And I saw how many hours that they poured into that organization, and I thought, wow, that must be really great and something they really love for them to pour that much time into it. I decided to apply for CO because it was just something you could put your name into the hat for. I had been in the organization for several years, tried out as a sophomore, was in as a junior, and I also worked as a student worker at Fiddler's Green between my sophomore and junior year. So I knew the facilities really well, and I just loved the organization. I loved the people, I loved the horses, I loved what we did and what it stood for. So I didn't really put my name in the hat going in with any expectations. When I first found out that I was going to be the first female CO, I had a wide range of emotions. My first emotion was that I was really excited. There was a lot of great cab jocks who had tried out for this position, so I was really honored to have been chosen for it. But at the same time, I was really nervous. I knew that being the first female, there was going to be some scrutiny and potentially decisions that I made would be looked at a little bit more closely than my male predecessors. But I do feel like I had to earn the respect of former AGs and former cab jocks, which is not something I really anticipated because, prior to that, I had nothing and the cab had nothing but support from former Aggies. But that was something that I kind of had to come to terms with, and I think it all worked out. My experience in Parsons Mounted Cavalry affected my experience in the Corps in a way that enhanced my experience. I loved my outfit, and I still love my outfit, and I love being in the Corps, But I think the CAV really gave me an opportunity to step into a leadership position that I was really going to be passionate about and I was really going to enjoy. I think PMC represents what an incredible leadership opportunity there is at Texas A&M and the Corps of Cadets. PMC is the only mounted ROTC cavalry unit in the country, and it's entirely cadet run with some advisor oversight. But there is nowhere else in the country that offers that type of leadership learning lab. And it just represents, the opportunities for cadets and for students. And I think it's a really incredible organization.
Building on the foundation laid by former Parsons Mounted Cavalry members, today's cavalry continues to build on the previous 50 years of tradition. What was once a struggling unit has become one of the Corps' most coveted, unique, and recognizable special units.
Jeff Gardner, class of 1982, and I am the military advisor to Parsons Mounted Cavalry. When I was a junior, I wanted to join the CAV, but the problem was we had to provide our own horses, and I didn't have a horse at the time. One of my buddies in my outfit, their family had a horse that they weren't using, and so we went down and caught that horse and brought it back, and so I was able to join the CAV because I was able to bring a horse with me. In the spring of 2009, the CAV was having some problems, and General Weber, the Vice President for Student Affairs, came over to my office one day and sat down and asked me if I would do him a favor, and I said, yes, sir. And I said, what's that? He said, I want you to go out and fix Parsons Mounted Cavalry. I said, okay, so what do you want me to do? He said, I want you to fix it. So that's how I became the PMC advisor. Went out there to do General Weber a favor and to help the CAV. I mean, I obviously have connections to the CAV, and I want them to do well, and this was an opportunity to get involved with them again. I think it's a great honor to be able to work with PMC and the cadets that are out there and site managers that I've worked with. Watching these young people grow and mature and watching them transition from being a junior where they really don't know much of anything about what we do to becoming the senior leadership where they actually run the entire cavalry. And that's really amazing to watch. So in my day, if you had a horse, you could join. Nowadays, it's a lot more challenging than that. Sophomores apply for Parsons Mounted Cavalry in October. We normally have about 180 sophomores apply. Then they come out to the green for a month and a half, and we teach them horse anatomy and tact, and they learn what the green's all about. They learn how to feed and things of that nature. Around Christmas, we make the cut, the first cut. We normally invite about 70 back in the spring. That's when we start riding. And we start them off bareback with just a halter and a lead rope. We want to teach them the way that we want them to ride, not the way that they've learned to ride, if they have any horse experience at all. Over 90% of our cadets who are out there have zero horse experience before they came to the CAV. And so it's obviously not a requirement. We'll cut that 70 or so down to 50 by Parents' Weekend. Those are the guys who get to come back out and continue to train in the spring. Then the week before school starts during freshman orientation week, we have what's called PMC Work Week. And they come back in and they work hard and we ride more. And if they make it through that week, then they become a CAV jockey and get their court. So it's a 10-month process to become a member of Parsons Mounted Cavalry. PMC's grown since I was there in incredible ways. We start off with one building and 26 acres. Our class and the class behind us put up the Billy Bryant barn, the old barn. So that was in the spring of '82. Since then, we've gotten the McFerrin building and the McFerrin covered arena. The numbers are obviously substantially greater. And we have 50 acres out there that we put 70 horses on, and we have currently have 86 cadets. So it has grown in every way, especially in reputation and prestige. CAV was not favorably looked upon for a number of years. We were kind of the outcasts of the Corps, the guys who were, cowboys, rednecks, whatever. Now it's extremely prestigious, and everyone across campus understands that prestige and who we are and what we do. I'm really proud of them. I'm excited to see them out there. They take their job very seriously. They work very hard, and they look really good. The public doesn't see what goes on behind the scenes, and so they don't know how much time, effort these kids put in, but it really comes to light when we're at an event.
My name is Chaz Garcia. I'm class of 2024, and I'm the Parsons Mounted Cavalry Company Commander. PMC was something I didn't really know much about until when I was kind of in, call it sophomore year of high school. I was talking with an old friend of mine. I grew up working with horses, I loved horses, and he told me about this organization in the Corps of Cadets at A&M called Parsons Mounted Cavalry. He said it was a good way to stay in touch with horses while still wanting to pursue my Army career. I actually watched them ride in San Antonio for the Battle of the Flowers, and watching them go by was something I saw that and I instantly said, I want to be a part of that. That is something that looks incredibly special. I joined the Corps and that was the goal all along, was to find my way into PMC. Being a part of PMC is something special. When I'm out there at the green working with who I think are the hardest working people in this entire university, and I'm interacting with some of the most beautiful animals I could ever see, there's some special, surreal thing. I mean, Aggieland is incredible and this is my home, but Fiddler's Green is my little piece of heaven. And just being there, seeing people struggle, seeing people learn is probably one of the most special things that I will ever have. For me, serving as a CO is an opportunity. My junior year and my sophomore year as well, the Cav gave me a place, gave me a home. Now being the commanding officer of it, my hope is just to maintain that legacy of training. The Cav is the place where you learn and grow into your better adult self so that you can be a good professional in whatever environment you're going to be at, whether that's corporate, personal, or military. It's that responsibility and also opportunity to make sure that every single person under my command is learning and growing every single day. For Parsons Mounted Cavalry representing the Corps of Cadets and Texas A&M as a whole, it's a really good opportunity to show the unique places that the Corps has to offer. No other organization in the entire United States does what we do. Riding through a college campus with 56 horses, as well as a wagon and a cannon. That's kind of an eye catcher for people. And I like to think that what we do is seen by people also not in A&M, and it's a good recruiting aspect too. I mean, come join the cavalry and you make one of your best friends, and that best friend is a horse, you know, and people like to hear that. I think my advice to someone who's considering joining would be, don't consider it, do it. This is the place where you will genuinely learn how to be your best self. This is the place where you will learn all kinds of different opportunities and different skills. Even if you're someone who's not wanting to interact with horses for the rest of your life, this is a really cool opportunity that you can do something special. And the lessons you learn at Parsons Mounted Cavalry are way bigger than any horse or any cav jock or any ride-in. So I would say just do it. And if you're someone who wants to grow and wants to learn, then yes, absolutely, there is no question you should be there. It's gonna be hard, it is. But if it wasn't hard, it wouldn't be worth doing, and the Cav is more than worth doing.
From its humble beginnings to the nationally recognized unit it is today, Parsons Mounted Cavalry has and will continue to provide unique leadership opportunities for its members. As the cavalry grows and develops, new challenges and opportunities will arise. As in the previous 50 years, these cadets will rise to meet the challenges as they come. Ride on!